Fine.
I see that, attending virtually. Okay. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Toes, please introduce yourself and share your agenda item, please. Yeah, we heard you initially, and then you froze.
Yeah, not a good day.
Yeah, we can hear you there.
That we're discussing has for decades functioned as a shared access corridor, supporting agricultural operations, infrastructure access, and historically a homestead. It continues to serve multiple users today, mostly through temporary approvals. Administration has advised us that any...
Sorry, we're just getting some feedback in the room here. Apologies, please proceed.
Yeah. So administration has advised us that any development permit that we are looking for would require upgrading the road to a Class 3 standard, and that any cost sharing or county participation requires council approval. So given the number of users who rely on this corridor and the scale of the investment involved, we thought it was appropriate to bring this forward to council. We've been in active...
I'm sorry, we've lost you again. I'm suggesting maybe we move this matter to later in the day and try to fix a connection or reschedule when the applicants can present in the room.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. Administration can coordinate with the presenters and potentially have them join by phone. So we'll look at an option immediately for council to consider that.
I can hear you now. It's just a stopping and a starting, and that's not an ideal situation, especially if we can't hear everything you're saying. Maybe if you can turn off your video, that might support a stronger audio connection. We'll give that a try. If there's any further issues, we'll have to postpone this to a little bit later and have you just call in. Please proceed. No, and apparently video is not going to solve the issue. So we'll hold this item and
okay. Oh, the screen went black. That's a good sign.
it seems we've got some 2026 gremlins that need to be blown out, so we'll take a 5-minute recess and sort this stuff out. Thanks.
Thank you. Apologies.
We're going to call this back to order. And we have the Mr. and Mrs. Toes on the line. We did have connectivity issues right off the beginning, so just to make sure that we haven't missed anything, if you could take it from the top.
Okay. Okay, can you hear us now?
Yes, we can. Thank God.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, again, so my name is Pam and this is Warren, and we're here to talk about access along the underdeveloped portion of Range Road 202 and ask for council's direction on moving forward. We're planning to build our future family home on this land, and through that process, we've identified an infrastructure issue that extends beyond just our property. The portion of Range Road 202 we're discussing has, for decades, functioned as a shared access corridor supporting agricultural operations, infrastructure access, and historically a homestead. And it continues to serve those multiple users today, mostly through temporary approvals. So administration has advised us that any development permit would require upgrading the road to a Class 3 standard, and that any cost sharing or county participation requires council approval. So given the number of users who rely on the corridor and the scale of the investment involved, we felt it was appropriate to bring this forward to council. So we've been in active conversations with all of the current users along the corridor, and there's strong alignment and willingness to collaborate toward a coordinated solution. What we're asking for today is council's direction on a fair framework that reflects shared use and shared benefit. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
So you ready for questions right now then?
Yeah, well, I'm not able to see the slide presentation, but I can review the slides as well. If we start on slide 2, we're here to request council's direction regarding that undeveloped road allowance on Range Road 202. The corridor serves multiple existing users, and we're looking for a coordinated solution that requires council guidance. Slide number 3, Range Road 202 has been under the county jurisdiction since it was annexed in 1977. And it's historically supported an established homestead, agricultural operations, infrastructure access, and it's long functioned as an unimproved but actively used access corridor. Slide number 4, the current corridor use, active agricultural operations, the pipeline maintenance under temporary approvals, and it's continued to have that temporary access anticipated. We've been in discussions with all the adjacent, this is slide 5, all the adjacent agricultural landowners. So Morinville Colony, Dwayne Yaworski operations, and then also with MGM and the Enbridge pipeline. And everyone has expressed a willingness to contribute, whether that be equipment or materials, labor, fuel, and the coordinated construction timing. Slide 6, why council direction is needed, because administration has advised that the development permit requires the Class 3 GMS standards, and cost sharing or county contribution requires council approval. Slide 7, our specific request to council is approval in principle for a minimum of 50% cost share towards upgrading that Range Road 202 to a Class 3 standard. Direction to administration to work with the stakeholders on a coordinated multi-user approach, and consideration of appropriate mechanisms to reflect that shared benefit. And the last slide, the outcome sought is safe, durable access, fair cost distribution, reduced reliance on those repeated temporary permits, long-term certainty for the county and the users alike, and looking ahead, hoping for some direction this month, scoping and coordination this spring, and then hopefully construction during this upcoming construction season. So happy to answer any questions if there is any.
Thanks, Pam. I'll open it up for questions, and we'll go to Councillor Barry with the first.
Thanks to the chair. Well, good morning, Pam and Warren. I have a few questions here. So firstly, just to put a picture in everyone's mind, like this is, if you were to go to there, it would look like a gravel road that needs maintenance, right? It's outlined in the fence line with trees. There's a gravel road that's, needs maintenance, no question. But in your opinion, is that what it looks like to you?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's been heavy equipment up and down that road for 20 years.
Yeah. So come whatever, July, this past July, you would have what, two sod farms, one on the east and one on the west, I believe. The sod farms are there for the water because of the river. And then you have Enbridge. And there's a third ag parcel. That's the colony?
Yeah, Morinville Colony has property there. And then Dwayne Jaworski has the property closest to the river on the west side.
Yeah, and there's also the existing acreage.
Yeah, okay.
There that kind of uses that road.
So in July, when you're taking the sod off, in the spring you're seeding the sod, and in July you would have many trucks there loading sod. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Like
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a used road, right? Okay. Yeah. I'll let someone else go if they have any other questions for now.
Any questions? Councillor Stang.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just want to clarify something. You had mentioned when you were speaking about 15 users of this road, but you've listed 4. Can you just maybe touch on that for me, please?
I don't know if we ever mentioned 15 users. There's multiple users. It's basically the I don't know what permits like the sod farm would have for removal of the sod and their heavy trucks up and down, but the farmers I know because I had worked with some farmers that were owners there previously, and those are super bees of seed and fertilizer going in and grain coming out of both of those west parcels and south parcels. And we're just saying it's not quite developed to a standard, but it's definitely holding a lot of the traffic. And then when the pipeline has any work near the river, then they're coming in with heavy equipment.
We pulled all of the public documents on this range road and on this property for the last 25 years, and there's record of MGM and Enbridge sort of further developing the road every time they use it. That was sort of the arrangement that they had, that they leave it better than they found it every time. And so in their ongoing usage over 18 years, that would be the reason that it looks, they've been hauling gravel there, they've been bringing their heavy equipment. So for all intents and purposes, it looks like and functions as a roadway. It's just not to the new standards of the DMSS Class 3.
Councillor Barry.
Through the chair. So it's kind of safe to say that, in 1977, when the county took over that from Thorold County, I believe, there was just ag there. And through the years, it was just businesses, farms, Enbridge, no one really living there that really cared to call the county, right? Is that basically what's going on?
Well, there
here?
was one resident. There was a resident that was kind of a good kilometer down. He was already on the southeast side, but the second quarter to the south, kind of on the bank of the river. So there was a resident down there at that time.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
So in the write-up here, it says it's undeveloped road. I don't know, I'm gonna ask the, administration here is, I don't know if you could class it as undeveloped, because I think there was some development there. There is gravel, there is you could see it's a gravel road. So I kind of have
it's underdeveloped. It can, it handles 65 tons of steel and rubber kind of quite easily every spring and fall and through the summer. But for in the county's eyes, or like the eyes of an engineer, there's no engineer has ever done a test to determine the compaction of the roadway allowance, or if the roadway allowance is wide enough or the ditches are sloped properly. But that's kind of where a standard road elsewhere in the county or a paved surface in Casa Vista or whatever meets those standards. This one just isn't quite there. And
yeah, I agree.
Good morning.
Go ahead, Mr. Peters, and then we'll go to Mr. Safo. Otto Safo.
And thank you, just through the chair and for the councillor. And first, I just thank you to Pam and to Warren for being here. We've certainly enjoyed talking to them in the background. And I would just say that as the councillor indicated, this is not technically a road. So this is a road allowance. But however, there are some nuances here. So back in the day, there was a gravel that was put down to help a company just have a little bit of traction as they went over what is not a road. But be that as it may, it creates expectations. So this area, the allowance, what's at debate here is whether or not there is a public accountability to build the road to a private property. And I think that Pam and Warren have talked about that this area is now used by other parties here too. And maybe I'll leave it at that, and I'll turn it over to our director to add a little more context.
Thank you, through Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Max Edusafo, Director of Transportation Engineering Services. So specific to Councillor Berry's question, there's an undeveloped road allowance in the sense that it's not built to the geometry of a gravel road that Sturgeon County would maintain. We do not have maintenance obligation for this road. So, for example, we plow snow on all our roads. We will not plow snow on an undeveloped road allowance. Generally, as Mr. Peter indicated, it had offered some access to industry and agricultural farming activity, and they've, in some sense, been putting down material to gain that access. And historically, that temporary access or right to use that county property had been granted. The last approval that I see on record was in 2020 when Enbridge had to go in and do some work. So that ongoing activity has created that expectation that it is an access road, as it were, but within the lenses of a road that Sturgeon County would maintain. It does not meet that criteria. It's not designed for public access. It's not designed for ongoing vehicle transport. So we do not maintain it. That would be the classification for an undeveloped road allowance.
Okay, well.
Did you have a follow-up question?
That's someone else.
Councillor McLennan?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate the presentation. typically the cost of development for a road's borne by the developer. And it's great that sounds like there's some partners, but then I'm looking at the request to council and it says approval in principle of a 50% cost share. I'm just wondering what the logic is. Why would the county be responsible for the 50% cost share? Thank you.
Do you want to confirm who you're directing the question to? Sorry, go ahead, Ms. Toes.
That was in the bylaw that was sent to us by administration, that we would propose a 50% cost share arrangement. And we realized that as the applicant, we would be the ones applying for that on behalf of the roadway, but we are sitting at the table with all of the people along that same corridor. So many of the operations have heavy equipment, have gravel, have, you know, fuel and man hours willing to contribute to this operation. It's just if we need the county to help sort of coordinate all of that with us, we need to bring it to this table here.
If I can have some clarification from administration, the applicant has referred to a bylaw that was shared by administration. If I could have some clarity on that.
Thank you. Through Madam Mayor, attachment 3 to the request shows a policy the applicant is referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So policy, not a bylaw, just to be clear. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Barry.
Thanks to the chair. In actuality, the county wanted these people to pay the full shot, like $900,000. I don't know, like, I don't know if I agree with that at all. Like, I'm in the belief that this is a county road. Like, it fell through the cracks. You had businesses along that road, you know, for decades, taking money out of this, you know, paying very little tax, and then it fell through the cracks. Like, there's no residents there to complain. There was companies going, and we talked about dozens of, you know, large trucks, and it's no fault to administration or anybody. It fell through the cracks. There was no one there complaining, and that's how everything's generated, is through complaints. Are
you debating or asking
no,
a question?
I'm just answering the question, like how this came about, and now, you know, people want to build a house there, and they're responsible for the road that for decades, you know, people use the road, and it's not just one or two cars. Like in the summer, it'd be dozens of heavy trucks. So I just don't see the fairness in that. And so I'll have to ask another question here. So someone mentioned, Warren mentioned a subdivision, and I'll go back to that. If we're in the subdivision and the road's crumbling, like, you know, I'm going to take one in my area, you know, and if I bought a lot in Gibbons-Leah where the pavement's crumbling, am I responsible to cover the road when I buy that lot? Like, if it's a very direct, you know, comparison. If you think of it that way, these people bought a piece of land, which they thought was a county road, and then come back with $1 million price tag to build a road. That's the issue here, and yeah, that's what I got to say.
I just want to clarify, is this a road allowance or a road? Because you're talking about it being a road. I'm hearing road allowance and private access. Those are two different things. One's a driveway and one's a road.
Through Madam Mayor, this is a road allowance. So it's not a road, it's a county road allowance that a future road can be built within.
So what are the parameters to determine when a road allowance, no matter how well used, becomes an actual road? What are the parameters that determine when a road allowance becomes a functional road?
So Madam Mayor, I think the director already touched on the idea that once it's met the engineering design requirements per the general municipal servicing standard, then we would consider it a road and it becomes maintained. So the reason why this was triggered is that the applicant or the proponent requested a development permit. They're looking to purchase a parcel of land and they want to build their home and an agribusiness. And so as part of the permit process, it was identified that this undeveloped road allowance, so it's not been built to any county standard, although it is utilized. It's been utilized by companies that have had access to a temporary, like we call it temporary access agreement. And so because it's temporary, those other companies were never required to actually build it up to the municipal standards that would then transfer it from an undeveloped road allowance to a developed road allowance. So this is also the case in a number of agricultural settings where we have temporary approaches so that people can access the well site. So those are never built to the standard because why require that level of investment if it's temporary? So in this case, because the development is permanent, it's a home, and that there was some agribusiness, the identification of a class 3 was required. Now, we have also looked at the possibility of introducing other classifications of road that would for lower volume traffic. So if this was just one house on a parcel at the end of an undeveloped road allowance, maybe we don't have to have a class 3 which could accommodate up to 100 vehicle traffic. Maybe it would be 25 vehicles. So we are exploring those options as well, and we've been talking about that. But as that's stated already by the proponent, there are a number of residents in that area that would be interested in increasing the development of the road. So we've also, and we will be bringing back a report to council with different options. One option could be following through on the policy that it be 50% cost shared. Another option could be a community levy specific to that area in which all the benefiting individuals would contribute to. But ultimately, when a development triggers a road, although the word developer tends to think of like a large multi-lot developer, it also applies to a single lot, single individual. So in this case, a developer would be required to contribute to that. I hope I've answered the question with regards to what triggers it.
Yeah, so just to move on, before I move on, so if it was improved, regardless of whether it was just the users who paid for it, does it then stay a private access road?
So to the Madam Mayor, once that road is developed to the county's standards, it becomes a county road. And the county then has responsibilities for maintenance and stuff. And so, again, part of the reason why we wouldn't just allow an undeveloped road allowance is because there's emergency access issue, fire, et cetera. So once that road meets our GMSS standards, it transfers over to our transportation department, and they begin to maintain it based on gravel, paved, whatever that standard is that's been developed to.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Deputy Mayor Toms and then Councillor Boston.
Thanks through you, Madam Mayor. So just to clarify, you mentioned that the applicants are contemplating an agribusiness, which to me would mean additional traffic. So which portion of the permit that they're applying for is triggering this road? Is it just a house permit, or is it because we're anticipating the public to be using what's currently a private access? So is it their desire to draw a business that's doing this, or just the permit?
So, Madam Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor, so the initial request, even for a single-family home, would trigger the need to develop that road to our base Class 3 standard. So what the conversation with them was, okay, if there's a lower volume and you require lower volume, why don't we consider a lower class standard that would be adequate for that volume? But we are understanding too is that although the single-family home might not generate a lot of volume, there is still some interest in the agribusiness. But to be clear to your question, either development, like just even a single-family home, would trigger the need to build this road. Yeah.
So if somebody wants to build a house at the end of an unimproved road, and it would be a private road, no, because it's a right-of-way, it will never be a private road. Okay. Councillor Boston.
Yeah, that was my point I was going to make, is that basically it's a road allowance, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties that are inaccessible, kind of, sort of. So really, realistically, that road would be technically completed almost to the river to access the last 2 points. So it's just basically the grid that was never fully completed, essentially. Yeah.
Councillor McLennan.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, just a question to administration is, now if I'm looking at purchasing a piece of property, and I mean like land without any home or anything on it, and I come to the planning development department and say, I'm looking at possibly building on this site, would planning and development, without me going through the formal application, would they help me identify whether that would be possible, or even like a process about how or what I would need to do in order to do that building? Thank you.
So, Madam Mayor, to the council, that's exactly what's happened in this case. So the applicant came forward, had some conversations, and they were informed through the process of that informal discussion that these requirements would be there. And just to be like, there is almost 60 kilometers of undeveloped road allowance just in that vicinity of the North Saskatchewan. So.
Thank you, Milad. And further to what was just said, which is exactly right, it's always administration's recommendation that a prospective buyer would, as a condition of the sale, undertake a compliance certificate with Planning and Development Services, which would identify this ahead of a sale, a land transaction closing. So I just wanted to add that in as kind of a staging process.
Yeah, that was my question on a real property report or through disclosures by the original owner or the realtor. Would it not be disclosed this as a right-of-way and an unimproved road? I guess that question is to the toes. What was disclosed to you as far as the details of the access to the property by the seller and the realtor?
We purchased purchased from the owner. So we didn't use a realtor. It wasn't a piece of property. We live in we farm in the area, and we drove past and saw the for sale by owner sign. And so that's what drew us to the area. I'm not even sure that the previous owners, or they're not disclosing, that they understood the level to which the roadway would need to be completed. I think when they purchased it in 1990 or whatever, the rules were different then. There wasn't the same road standard conditions that there are today. So alternatively, the administration did also give us an option to lease a section of roadway adjacent to this road allowance. We can lease a space alongside it and build our own private driveway to that space. And then that would be another way that we could access the property and get the development permits to put our home there. So that is something that it's not ideal, I would say, for the situation, especially considering the conditions of what this road allowance looks like. But that is something that we have as an option to pursue as well.
Yeah, for 15 years, I've been behind the wheel of a Super Bee pulling grain in and out on that roadway, kind of for neighbors that I was helping. So when it's holding 65 tons, when the roadway is holding up to 65 tons of tire driving up and down it, you kind of believe it's a road. And why would we just look into it being not a road?
Yeah, we've stumbled on the information, I would say, pursuing.
Did you pull a real property report?
No. But would that have been identified in the real property report, that it would be undeveloped? We didn't understand that we needed it to be to the level 3 standard until we entered into this conversation with admin.
Okay, Councillor Bossino, go ahead.
Through Madam Mayor, is it not? Yeah. To administration, I guess the question I have is, if there's a road allowance here with properties without access, is it essentially our responsibility to build the road or not? That's really what it comes down to.
So Madam Mayor, to the councillor, no, it's not. There are thousands of kilometers of undeveloped road allowance in the province and in other counties. And actually, other counties have more challenging situation than ourselves. The requirement is that every parcel of land have legal access. So you have to have on paper, title, have legal access. That legal access, if you have to walk to that property or take an ATV or cycle, that is access to property, and that is a requirement by law. When it comes to like the ability to drive a vehicle or other kind of way of accessing land, once we have established a road as having been to the level of engineering standards to allow safe passage, that's when the county would take responsibility.
So basically, if you build a house, then the road needs to be provided?
Essentially, that is the case. And this
Because
is
we need
not,
to probably provide a strong enough road for there to be emergency response. I would think.
and so those are the options we're trying to. This is one of a few of these types of situations administration has seen over the last 6 to 8 months. And so we are trying to identify, are there other classifications of road that would still allow access, be considered safe for the public, allow our emergency crews to operate safely, and also allow for maintenance. So again, once we've developed a road, the county takes responsibility for maintenance. Undeveloped road allowances, and talking to our legal as well, don't have the same liability protections as a public road that we've identified.
So technically, if there's a permit for a house, we have to build a road?
Not
No?
we, the developer has to build a road.
Okay, we don't. Okay.
Yeah. Because there are a number of other mechanisms, and the applicant presenter just touched on, there are other ways that that could be accessed to that property that doesn't go along the road, undeveloped road allowance, right? So you can get easement from your neighbor and use that to get that. But the county's responsibility for maintenance of a road, the way we've handled it is once that road is built to our standards, then we take operational responsibility.
Just for clarity, because there's been an offer from interested parties to dedicate man hours and equipment, can we clarify the procurement policies of the county? If we are building a road, we don't normally, this isn't like building a playground at a school where we're taking in-kind efforts. It's a project that's overseen and managed by the county and put out for RFP, or is there flexibility to work with parties to build a road that we would then take license of occupation for after?
Thank you, Madam. So there's more than one way in which a road can be developed. We could have a construction CCA, cost contribution agreement, where the county builds the road and we get contribution. In this case, you could do a development agreement. So as long as the GMSS standards are met and we can go ahead and do a construction completion or a final acceptance after we've done testing, then the proponent can can build the road in whatever way they want. We just would require that it be engineering stamped, that we be able to do the testing that's required. So if it was a number of individuals in that area that decide to build that road, as long as it passes our testing and our CCC process FAC, then we would accept that road.
Okay, so I'm just going to make sure, sorry, I had a few questions, some have been answered already. Is there any complaints on file for that road being inaccessible or creating issues?
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. Currently, I don't have anything on file for it being inaccessible, specifically because there's an undeveloped road allowance and access is on request and on approval of temporary access. So we don't have any complaints on file for this.
Also, the applicant has asked for a January deadline. You know, we all know government does not move. This is a little bit of coordination and basically 2 weeks to do so, which seems unreasonable for the amount of work and decisions and agendas coming forward. Is that even a deadline that could be met?
So we can bring back a report with options to council for your consideration by the end of the month. But if council decided that that council did want to, per the policy, contribute 50%, that does have to go to the budget cycle. And so this would be, if you decide to address it in 2026, it would be out of budget cycle kind of capital improvement. So we would have to look for those funds. That probably wouldn't be until like March by the time we came back. If the applicant wanted to undertake the design work themselves in parallel, then potentially they could get some of that design work done and a development agreement prepared so that if council did consider it in March, we potentially could move forward. Construction, of course, would not happen until later on. But so we could bring something back to council for the end of the month, but I don't believe that that will be sufficient to get the approval for the capital item.
Councillor Barry?
Through the chair, and just to be fair, like these people came to us in end of September, early October. You know, they didn't start this process today. They started this process months ago. So, and it's not their fault. There was an election and Christmas break and all that stuff. So, I just want to bring that to everyone's attention that it's not just come today, ask for answered in 2 weeks. It's been months.
Mm-hmm. Right, but council still has to make a decision based on a report that comes at the end of the month, and then there would need to be, depending on the answer, some coordination. So I was just clarifying if that was reasonable, and it seems like a decision is reasonable potentially. I just want to understand for the toes, you understand if 20 people bought parcels in Sturgeon County with unimproved road allowances and they all came forward, it would be very difficult for us to manage our capital plan if suddenly we've got to pull tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars to build roads in a capital plan that weren't planned. So it's not that we don't want to support, but this is an emergent item, so to speak. And so as Mr. Adosefo and Mr. Ashtagi mentioned, finding the money for this in the budget might also be a bit of an issue. So just flagging, if you want a guaranteed movement forward, then probably finding the money elsewhere might strengthen the probability of you meeting the deadlines that you'd like to for a summer build.
Yeah, I mean, we're reasonable people. We understand that things have process and take time. But yeah, the goal, we sold our home and we're living in a shop right now with the intent of really living on this property near our farm. So hopefully it's not unreasonable to request that we could have some construction this construction season.
Okay, thank you. Well, I mean, I guess that's in your control if the dollars come together. So if they do procure the dollars and the equipment to undertake this on their own, how quickly would they be given approval to do that work?
Yeah, the condition of the permit would just be that the road could be constructed or that they enter into a development agreement with the county. We do have standard development agreements in place, and that should be relatively quick. The time that would be taken would be the engineering design to the standards. So they would have to work with an engineering firm to develop those designs for our development team to review and approve. Realistically, maybe on a time, like maybe 3 months to get that engineering design and get it submitted to us. And because the design classification standards are all within our GMSS, so the engineer would have everything they need to actually go out there. We did do, at the request of the TOEs, an assessment of the property just to see, okay, what is the level of the roadway classification? We have identified that and could share that with the engineer as well. So some geotechnical work and then some design work. So maybe 3 months would be like if things moved rapidly. Yeah.
Okay. I see no further questions. Mr. Toes, thank you so much for your presentation and through working through this process with administration. It looks like
Thanks for your time today.
It looks like we'll be coming back with a decision in a couple of weeks. So I appreciate your patience.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you very much.
Have a good day.
You too.
So we will now, there's a motion. Yeah, well, there. If I can have Councillor Berry move the motion, please.
Through the chair, that the presentation from Pam and Warren Toes regarding the undeveloped government road allowance at Range Road 202 south of Township Road 574 to be referred to administration to present information and a recommendation at a future council meeting.
Thank you. I'll call the question. Those in favor? And that motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Now moving on to 5.2, the road closure of 553 and 22A. Let the team come back and get the next slide presentation. Oh, there it is, ready to go.
Good morning once again. I'll just restate, for the record, my name is Kyle Scholey. I'm a senior planner for land management with Development Engineering Land Services in the Planning and Economic Services Division. I'm joined today by my colleagues Jordan Widmer, the Municipal Lands Coordinator, and Scott Williams with our Capital Group. And it's our pleasure this morning to introduce item 5.2, and I'll pass it off to Jordan to introduce the item.
Good morning, Mayor, Council, fellow administration, and members of the public. For the record, my name is Jordan Widmer, and I am the Municipal Lands Coordinator with Development Engineering and Land Services within the Planning and Economic Development Division. This morning, we are pleased to introduce and speak to the proposed bylaw 1693/25 to close portions of Township Road 553A, also known as Boysdale Road, and Range Road 222, also known as Lamoureux Drive. This file has already been on a 2-year-plus journey to arrive at this point. As for the subject site, it is located southeast of Gibbons, immediately east of the Hugh Haven and Riverside Park subdivisions in the east central part of the county, as shown on the map on the slide there. And there are 3 portions of undeveloped road allowance proposed to be closed as identified here. A rail line passes through all 3 portions of the identified road allowances. As the roads are constructed, a significant portion of them does not follow the legal road allowance and instead encroaches across privately owned lands by CN Rail. The proposed road closure will be completed in conjunction with a land swap with CN Rail to secure the land required for the 2 roads, in addition to an environmentally sensitive area around the Sturgeon River. Currently, a license of occupation temporarily grants the county access to the CN lands for the purposes of constructing and maintaining the road. The lands immediately adjacent to the road closure areas are zoned agricultural and alternative jurisdiction. The entirety of the lands involved in the proposed swap are shown here. The lands that will be transferred to the county from CN Rail are shown in red, while the road closure areas that will be transferred to CN Rail are shown in blue. In terms of strategic alignment, this proposed road closure and associated land swap will contribute to mitigating the issue of county roads encroaching across private lands. Further, if council grants first reading, the public will have an opportunity through the public hearing process. Under the Municipal Government Act, Section 18, which is a municipality has the direction, control, and management of all roads within the municipality. Section 22, a municipality may close a road by bylaw subject to public hearing and with the approval of the minister. And Section 70, the county may dispose of land at market value. Regarding the public hearing, which is likely to be held in March, notice will be sent by direct mail to nearby landowners, advertised in newsprint for 2 consecutive weeks, online and in social media, and a sign will be placed near the site. Following the public hearing, the bylaw will be sent to Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors for endorsement prior to returning to council for consideration of 2nd and 3rd hearings, likely to occur sometime in Q3 to 2026. At this time, administration is supportive of bylaw 1693/25 because it will rectify the encroachment issue of the constructed roads across private land. Thank you. This concludes administration's presentation, and we would be happy to be entertain any questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilmer. First question to Councillor Stang.
Thank you, through the chair. So first and foremost, we're dealing with all sorts of issues within that area, which is there more to come? Is that kind of where I'm going with this, first and foremost? Okay. And in the briefing note, it mentions we will be paying $43,962 plus GST to CN. So if you could just go back to the map and just explain, is that the areas to the east? If you can just kind of explain what we're paying for, if this is a successful transaction.
Thank you, Councillor, and through the Mayor. I'm happy to take a first pass at this, and perhaps Scott will be able to supplement my answer. The consideration sum which you refer to is all-encompassing of net land disposal and land acquisition. So as was identified on this map here, the county is to obtain anything highlighted in red, which is the given area displayed there. Considerably more land is coming to us than we are disposing of to CN. Of course, part of that being the actual built road itself. And then it's just the areas in blue which are being closed as legal road, which becomes fee simple land, which is to be disposed to CN. Does that answer the question?
If I could just have a follow-up then. So the areas to the north on this picture, would that transition to MR, environmental reserve, because of the proximity to the river? Would that be described as after the fact?
Thank you for the question. It's a very good question, and through the chair, it's quite likely that the portion that's immediately adjacent to the Sturgeon River would indeed be registered as environmental reserve. Yep.
Councillor McLennan.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Some time ago, I was informed when the county was going to look at trading land for land that there had to be a public option. Like, in other words, like it had to be offered up or tendered up to the public as well. Is that not true?
Thank you for the question, Councillor, and through the chair. It may pertain to the specifics of the example that you have in mind, which I may not be fully familiar with. What I can offer is, again, what was referenced in legislation under Section 70 is that if the county is to dispose of land, that it must either be at market value or advertised. So if the county is to entertain a sale that we're knowingly at below market value, that can be done, but it simply needs to be advertised as such. And even when it is advertised, there's not necessarily an opportunity for somebody else to swoop in, if you will, and place a competing bid. It would still just simply be a decision, I think in this case, delegated to the CAO through the CAO authority bylaw.
Go ahead, Councillor Berry.
To the chair, so that dotted line on that picture there, that's the train tracks?
Yes, it is.
So conceivably, CN was once that blue area for storage of train cars?
Perhaps that would be a question best put to CN at the public hearing, Councillor.
Yeah.
So the red area is obvious municipal reserve. It looks like a sensitive environmental area. So why does it matter who owns it as far as whether or not it just stays in its original condition? Why is the county purchasing it?
Thank you for the question, Your Worship. And you're referring again, I think, specifically to the portion of red that's north of
along the river.
Township Road 533A.
Yeah, along the not the North Saskatchewan River, but the the little tributary.
And perhaps I'll be able to lean on Scott a little bit as to the rationale for securing this land. It is, I think, seen by administration as an opportunity to secure environmentally sensitive lands. Under the municipal development plan, there are policies where there is opportunity to secure those lands and steward them. That would be something that the county would look favorably upon. Ultimately, the negotiations that led to this configuration, as was mentioned, occurred over the previous 2 to 3 years. And so some individuals who were party to those negotiations are no longer with the county. However, the agreement, such as it was drawn up, was done between lawyers, and Yield did this configuration as it is here. I don't know, Scott, if you had anything you wish to add, but.
No, nothing additional to add to that. However, I do believe the addition of the access to the outfalls, or the infall for the Sturgeon River, was part of that. Currently, the county doesn't have secured access to that, so.
Okay. I'm not sure what we would necessarily do with that access, but anyway, I guess that. Oh, okay. Future plans potentially. Okay. Does Stephen have something to add?
Yeah, good morning. And through the chair, I just wanted to add that the bridge fell located just west of the Range Road there. So that is one of the largest bridge fells in the county. And so when it comes time for replacement, that access will be valuable.
Pay now or pay later. Got it. Okay, thank you. Seeing, pardon me, seeing no further questions, if I can have a mover for the motion. Go ahead, Councillor Bossino.
Yeah, it's an easy one. The bylaw 1693/25 be given the first reading.
Perfect, thank you. I'll call the question. Those in favor? And that motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, and thanks for your patience, folks. We will take a quick bio break. And before we do that, Mr. Sopko, do you just want to update us on the technical shenanigans this morning and where folks can access us?
Yes, thank you, through Madam Mayor. About 10 minutes into the meeting, we were able to get a live stream through YouTube. So we have been directing public and staff to watch on YouTube, which has been successful, which is great. We now have eScribe functional. So during the recess, we'll switch over to the usual live stream through the eScribe portal on the agenda. So if people can hear me through YouTube, please switch over to the regular stream, and we'll continue there after the recess.
Thanks. I appreciate the efforts to make the meeting public as it's happening. And we'll take the 5-minute recess now.